I'm Rich Andreski, Bureau Chief for Public Transportation at the Connecticut Department of Transportation. And I'd like to welcome you to Along the Lines, a podcast series where we'll explore current issues and ideas on Connecticut's public transportation system. Hello and welcome to another episode of Along the Lines. I'm your host, Rich Andreski. In previous discussions, we've addressed the important role public transportation plays in the economic development of cities and towns. However, one aspect that is often overlooked is how transportation provides a critical link between people looking for work and employers. This is even more important in today's employment landscape, where small and large companies alike are struggling to fill multiple open positions. So today we'll discuss the importance of a frequent and reliable public transportation system and how people who have been out of work can utilize transportation and other programs in their communities to get back on their feet. We'll also touch on the CT Pass program. This new program, administered by the Connecticut Department of Transportation, supports workforce development and job growth by offering eligible organizations group rates on public transportation throughout the state. With me today are two guests from the Northwest Regional Workforce Investment Board, Kathy Awad, President and CEO, and Jenny Fonseca, Director of Strategic Planning. We also have Shakira Wade, Career Navigator from Career Resources. Welcome to the program, everyone. So good that you could join us today, and looking forward to this conversation. So, workforce investment boards play a critical role here in Connecticut, and I'm hoping, Catherine, you can start us out by telling listeners what you're all about and your role with the Northwest Regional Workforce Investment Board.
Sure. Thank you. And thanks again for asking us to join you today. This is truly a very important topic. The workforce boards, of which there are 5 in the state of Connecticut, really function to coordinate and administrate employment and training funds, both federally and state, as well as some local and philanthropic dollars that we're in receipt of, working together to create the relationship between the job seeker and the employer, making sure that the training programs are in line with what an employer's need is for a trained employee, and working with the job seeker to engage them in conversations about what is the career that they're looking for, what's the sustainability of that career, and what's necessary to be successful in that career. Kind of making the match between the job seeker and the employer, upskilling that job seeker to get into an entry-level job, or working with an existing job seeker to continue to increase their skill sets so that that employer can enjoy the benefits of a newly trained employee, an upskilled employee, and kind of create those career ladders throughout each employer's operation. So really the workforce boards enjoy the opportunity to kind of be the conveners amongst all of those necessary people within the workforce system.
Catherine, it's really so important. It's not always obvious to people where they can go to find these resources, and your organization does the important work of making sure people are aware of the options that are available to them. And I know you have a great team member, Jenny. So Jenny, maybe you could introduce yourself for a moment to our audience.
Sure, and thank you so much for asking us to be a part of this. I really appreciate it. My name is Jenny Fonseca, and I am the Director of Strategic Planning with the Workforce Investment Board. So I assist with the development and implementation of the workforce training programs that we offer. I also spent many years running our health profession opportunity grant. So I certainly realize the importance of access to public transportation in addressing the barriers with the clients that we serve.
Yeah, Jenny, thank you for joining us as well. Looking forward to getting your perspective. And then Shakira, finally, last but certainly not least, what's your position with Career Resources, and how do you work with homeless individuals that face housing insecurity?
Thanks again for having me. I'm so excited. Thank you for the great introduction. The last but not least, I love that. So I'm Shakira Wade. I am the career navigator for Career Resources. It's my job to assist the job seekers with linking academic, personal, and professional goals to ensure that they persist in their graduation. We want them to get a job. We want them to have the training. I also serve as a liaison to services and resources, but I more see it kind of like It's not in my job description, but I consider it to be more like a track coach. If you can just vision your track coach, they're pretty much cheering you on, they're running aside you, you can do it, push through, and once you get to that finish line, they're there to cheer you on, they're building you, they're building speed, they're encouraging you to go at your own pace, and once you get to that finish line, it's like time to celebrate and on to the next one. So I'm just kind of there to really encourage them, get them to believe in themselves. COVID was really a tough time, and we're still in COVID, and people have really experienced a lot of loss, whether it's jobs, family members, they've experienced a lot of trauma. And I'm just there kind of to be that supporting system to say, hey, whatever happened back then, let's start over. Let's get you some skills, let's get you some experience, and hopefully get you back into society, making some good money, living a great life.
And Shakira, I used to run track, and I know exactly what you mean. Everyone sort of is at a different place and in stage of their development, and sort of meeting people where they are makes a lot of sense. So Shakira, public transportation is really important. We tend to think of it as a transportation issue, but it really ties in closely with housing, education, and family. Can you talk a little bit about that and why transportation is such a big deal?
So we come across a lot of people, especially being in Waterbury, you have your inner city. So not everybody has access to a car, or they don't always have enough funds for gas. We have a lot of people who have families and they have children. So, you got to count on them getting on the school bus. How are they going to get to school and back? So a lot of times it comes in different segments. So you have the people who, if they do not have public transportation, you kind of see how determined they are to really be successful, because not only do they have to take the bus to the career center to bring their documents, but then they have to return to actually have their scheduled intake. Then they have to return for testing. So it's not just a one trip event. They have to be really determined to get here. They have to save funds to get here. They have to schedule the right time to find the right bus to get here. So when you come across people that are taking public transportation, it really shows you their commitment level and how dedicated they are to actually starting training and completing it.
Yeah, for those of us that use a personal car, we take for granted sometimes the ability to go when and where you want at a moment's notice, and that's why public transportation is so important. This is effectively serving as their vehicle to get and go places and access opportunity. Couldn't agree with you more, Shakira. So, Catherine and Jenny, let's back to you a little bit on the Workforce Investment Board in terms of the the role it plays in economic development for our region. Can you talk a little bit about how your group works with stakeholders like businesses, workforce development groups, and community organizations to provide resources for your clients?
Sure. I think one of the most important things to consider when you talk about the impact of a workforce board like the one that we have here in the greater Waterbury area, and again, we serve Danbury, Torrington. We have 41 communities in the northwest and western part of Connecticut, but really we are working hand in hand with the economic development folks from a multitude of different municipalities, because any employer that's looking to stay within Connecticut to be retained, or if we're going to go out and recruit new employers to move to Connecticut, their first question is going to be, what's the available workforce? How skilled are they? What are the, how available are they? And they also have a lot of questions about what are the current wage, what's the wage projection look like? So the workforce board really plays an integral role with economic development throughout the region. We have a great relationship with DECD and the people there as they look to bring in businesses from outside Connecticut. And as I mentioned, retain the current businesses that are in Connecticut and have made that commitment to stay in Connecticut. So, we're working with them. We're working to determine what their needs are. We're working with the job seeker to see, what type of career pathway are people looking for. But again, the biggest piece of the workforce board is to be that convener, to work with the economic development agencies, work with the educational institutions, the training providers. One of the largest training providers for workforce development in the state is the community college system. There's some proprietary schools as well that are across multiple industry sectors that deliver training, apprenticeship programs. And how do we coordinate all those relationships for the employer, the employee, and the communities that are hosting these businesses? So that's really the job that the board has. it's busy. Jenny will tell you we're always making new relationships. We're doing our best to promote our services to industry that may not be aware of what we can provide to them. So it's a pretty important role that I see the workforce boards playing in convening all those partners.
So no doubt, important work that you're doing, and maybe I'll put this out to the three of you. Once you've connected with a client and understand their needs and where they're coming from, what does that counseling look like? How does that work, and how do you help people utilize the public transportation system?
So I think to the degree, and I'll turn this over to Shakira in a minute, but really what we do is try to coordinate with the area transit districts. What are the best routes that need to be served to get them into industrial parks and high density areas where we see clusters of employers, so that we can coordinate the opportunity for those employees and job seekers that may not have the benefit of an auto to be able to utilize public transit, scheduling the timing of those bus runs or the van pools so that they're coordinated with the start and ending of different shifts that employers may have. So that's a real important piece of it that is very important. And I know that Jenny is working with some other folks around the state at a transportation application to, again, further provide those type of transportation supports that we are hearing are so needed for many of Connecticut's residents to be able to hold gainful employment.
Jenny or Shakira, would you like to add to that?
I would just like to add that yes, we've been having conversations with transit districts throughout the state. Each board sort of has its own unique barriers, whether it's the access to public transportation or whatever the case might be. So just trying to open the conversation and figure out the best way to solve the issues that each board is facing, the clients are facing throughout the state. Just having that open dialogue is extremely important.
Thanks, Jenny. And Shakira, over to you.
I definitely agree with Jenny. It's great to have the open and honest conversation because I think a lot of times when our job seekers come in and we're talking about training, we're talking about employment, I don't think they really understand that we really care about them as people, right? So it's one thing to say, hey, what do you want to do for training? What kind of job do you want to do? What kind of job would you love to do? But most importantly, just your basic life skill. How are you going to get to work? And a lot of times as people we forget to ask those just people centered questions. So I think to be able to have that conversation and to be able to point them in the right direction is what's key. I think people are much more successful when they feel like you care about them as a person, not so much that you're going to work, but do you have a safe way to get to work? Do you have a dependable way to get to work? I think those are great questions to pose, and then to be able to give them a positive solution. I think it helps build that relationship, especially between me and the job seeker, that they trust me and that the information that I'm providing them with is helpful.
Shakira, yeah, absolutely. It's really about making those connections with people on an individual level, understanding their needs. And one of the things that we heard from all of you and we heard from customers and businesses directly was the ability to simplify access. And by access, a lot of people mean how do they get their fare? How do they make it easy to use and pay for that service? So the governor's workforce council had recommended to the legislature last session to implement a CT Pass program modeled after our very successful UPass program. And for our listeners, a little bit about UPass. UPass is a transit card that we issue to all students at partner universities and colleges. There's a flat fee per semester, and all students have access to that card. They can pick one up and use any bus or train in the state, and it's been hugely successful and very popular.
I just want to say I know the impact of UPass locally for our community college students has been tremendous, allowing them the opportunity to get to classes, and the expansion of the bus routes to have evening runs so they could get to evening classes was even more instrumental in the success of UPass. And I just can't talk enough about how that UPass program really did make a difference for many, many folks that attended the community college system. So it's nice to see it be expanded to the employment sector, to the employer sector for the similar process of getting folks to work.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. The ease of use is key. Just having not requiring people to think ahead about what trips they need to make, but having that pass in your pocket and just being able to go when and where you want. As of January 1st, we launched our application process. We've received 60 applications so far from various organizations and businesses, and we're now reviewing those applications and crafting a program around the needs of these different organizations. And our goal is to, again, put those transit passes in the hands of the people that need them, and to make it easy to use. And so, very much like UPass, there'll be a simplified program, a branded pass, more on that to follow. But perhaps you could talk a little bit about what that would mean in terms of your respective roles. How does prepaid access to public transportation, how do you think that will be received by your clients individually?
From the employer perspective, I think it allows for them to know that there is a sustainable opportunity for their employees to get back and forth every day, that they're not subject to a flat tire or the whim of someone that they might be carpooling with. So I think that'll, from the employer side, provide a degree of consistency. And from the same side, from the job seeker, there's a degree of consistency. They can manage themselves, as Shakira talked about. It's a one-on-one relationship, and Shakira does a great job of understanding each independent job seeker's needs, working with them. But again, to know that that ride is happening on a daily basis, that's consistent, I think it removes some of the stress of getting to work every day.
Shakira, would you like to add to that?
Yes, I agree with Catherine as far as relieving stress. But just imagine how empowering that is. You don't have to ask someone to help you get to school or get to work. You don't have to depend on any family or friend members. And it's just, I think we're in a world where training and going to work every day, it brings you pride. It brings you a reason to get up, and I think when I'm getting up and going to work, my children see that every day. That determination, mom is consistent. I know she's going to work and she's going to take care of us. I think everybody in this country wants to feel like they are empowered and motivated to get up and get back into the work field. So to know that, hey, I have this pass and it can take me wherever I want to go, to any job I want to go, to any training I want to go. It has to be uplifting, and it definitely takes you into a hopeful place. Like, hey, like this is something that I don't have to worry about. Like I think if you don't have to worry about food, you know that you can concentrate on work. That definitely relieves stress and it makes you a better person just in society. So if you don't have to worry about food and transportation, sky's the limit. Like you can make it to DC by a bus pass, then spread your wings and fly.
Isn't it empowerment is really what it's all about? 100% with you on that. Just public transportation really creates the opportunities and the independence that people want and deserve. So we couldn't agree with you more, Shakira. And they're as great as our transit system is at some level. There are gaps in our system in terms of availability of service, but also time of day and the frequency of service. So I'm going to put a little commercial in here and talk very briefly about some of the things that we're doing here at Connecticut DOT. In the last year, we've made several improvements in the greater Northwest region of Connecticut. We've introduced new services. There's a new express bus now running between Meriden and Waterbury, serving those downtowns. Previously, you couldn't get between those two cities directly. And that started in January. Also, Hart Transit recently started an on-demand service to replace a fixed route bus service. And what on-demand transit looks like is it doesn't run on a published schedule, but it's available to customers when they want to travel. So a lot like the way you would take Uber and Lyft, you make a call and a transit vehicle comes and picks you up and brings you to your destination. And that's the future of transit. Right now, our industry is pivoting to more on-demand services. And finally, coming this year, this summer, we're going to be expanding rail service in the Naugatuck Valley on our Waterbury line. We're going to increase service from 15 trains a day to 22 trains per day. And that'll be happening in July of 2022. So we're really excited about those improvements and, more to come, but those are the most immediate ones that we're happy to talk about.
And we're very excited about the transit too. I know it's been something that's been high on Mayor O'Leary and Governor Lamont's agenda for quite some time. So the signaling work that's been done and the opportunity to increase the number of trips per day, it's really going to be critical for improving the travel between, in the Naugatuck Valley corridor all the way down to Bridgeport. So we're very excited about that. And we think it's going to be a game changer for a lot of folks up here. So we're excited about that.
Well, thank you, Catherine. Yeah, and hopefully it'll come out for our opening ceremony in July.
Absolutely, and we have the Waterbury train station has just been revitalized, and it's great, and it's bright, and it's much more open, and I think people will be pleasantly surprised about the opportunities to now really be able to add rail to their travel opportunities.
So, this has been a really revealing conversation. I'm learning quite a bit from all of you. And as we think, and this is a question I like to ask on our podcast, thinking about the future, near term and long term, I'm just curious. I'd like to hear from the three of you about your sense of the opportunities and challenges going forward over the next, let's say, 1 to 5 years.
So just off the top of my head, as we watch the price of gas go up and the impact of inflation, I think public transit is going to become more and more of an option for folks. We know that through some of the climate change type legislation, we're looking at the greater use of electronic vehicles and the implementation of charging stations. Honestly, I think that's a great idea, but I struggle with the cost of an electronic vehicle for a low wage to middle wage worker, which is where I really think public transit, buses, rails is really going to have the opportunity to be impactful and take us off the less energy dependent, gas powered vehicles. So I think there's a lot to be seen. I think the horizon is wide open, and we just have to see how this plays out. But I think we are prepared to address that with the rail, with the buses, with the express buses. I think that Connecticut's in a good place.
Thanks, Catherine. And Jenny, how about you?
As I mentioned, I think I'm really excited about the opportunity to continue collaborating with different agencies throughout the state to sort of, I guess, just better partner with one another, understanding what each organization has going on, just, I guess, expanding our knowledge in terms of what's already available. If we perceive a gap, but then we realize that actually they've got this going on over here or whatever. It's just nice to be able to have these conversations. I think the timing of this podcast is really awesome because we're working on an application statewide to sort of expand the options that we have to address barriers to transportation. So again, I'm just looking forward to the collaboration that's ahead.
Jenny, yeah, thank you. You're absolutely right. It's the collaboration that brings success here. And, thank you to you and Catherine for your partnership. And Shakira, last word to you.
Thank you. Yes, I am so excited and confident that with our people going through training, it will open doors for jobs. And the more jobs there are out there, you will definitely have more people working and using public transportation. I'm a product of using public transportation in my more younger years, and it definitely molded me to be a different person. You meet so many different people people from everywhere, different ages, different cultures. So public transportation is not just about getting from A to B. It really grounds you as a person. So I'm just excited to continue to meet new people, to really get them trained and employed, and to hopefully they'll come back and say, hey, the public transportation programs that you guys spoke to us about was really helpful. How can we give back? Because that's really what this world is about. Once you get one step forward, you look behind you and pull up the people that's behind you. So the goal is to get people trained, employed, and have them living a healthy life and then saying, hey, this program works for me. So I know that it'll work for you. So you just want to pass on the word and just keep encouraging people to live happy, healthy lives.
Shakira, what a great way to end. I really want to thank you, Shakira Wade from Career Resources, as well as Catherine Awad and Jenny Fonseca from the Northwest Regional Workforce Investment Board. This has been such an enjoyable conversation for me personally. I'm really happy and thrilled that we could have you on the program.
But listen, we were pleased to be asked, and anytime you would find you in need of any of our help, please feel free to reach out to us. We're here to serve the public and to just make sure that everybody is very well aware of all the services that are available.
Catherine, what's the best way if our listeners want to reach out? What's the best way to find you?
Sure, we're on the web, nrwib.org. You can give us a call at the office here, 203-574-6971. Or, just Google search Connecticut Workforce Boards and look for the Northwest region. So we're here, we're open for business, and we're anxious to serve anybody that needs some help, employers and job seekers alike.
Thank you, Catherine. And Shakira, best way to reach you?
Good afternoon. You can reach us at 203-574-6971.
Okay. Thank you so much for making the time. And remember, you can always find previous episodes of Along the Lines on your favorite podcast platform, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and SoundCloud. You can also find previous episodes and more information on our new website, alongthelinesct.com. Again, I'm Rich Andreski, and join us next time for another episode of Along the Lines. Thanks for listening to this episode of Along the Lines. This is your host, Rich Andreski. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please remember to subscribe and share.